On my birthday, I disappeared without telling anyone. At first, nobody cared. They just thought I was throwing a tantrum and would be back soon. But one day, 2 days, 3 days, then a month passed, and I never showed up again. I thought I could just live quietly by myself. It wasn't until a teacher called home that the Chu family realized I hadn't been back in a long time. My dad, Chu Dahai, was furious. So what if I didn't buy him a cake? Is that a reason to run away? Does he not even have the money to buy his own cake? My mom, Lin Shui, sighed. He's so immature, taking the family's money and who knows what he spent it on. She then asked Chu Dahai, how much allowance do you give him every month? I really want to ask him why he couldn't buy his own cake. Chu Dahai looked confused. He's so badly behaved, why would I give him an allowance? Even if I didn't, the allowance you give him should be more than enough, right? Lin Shui froze. I didn't give him an allowance either. Before they could finish, they looked at each other and asked at the same time, you never gave him an allowance? They couldn't believe it. They gave their younger brother Xiaofei tens of thousands in allowance every month, plus what his 3 sisters gave him from time to time. He never had to worry about money. On holidays and birthdays, they gave him even more. But it seemed they had never actually given me a dime. Chu Dahai called the maid over and asked, where's Chu Zihao's room? The maid was a bit shocked. This family didn't even know where their own biological son's room was. But as the Chu family maid, she knew better than to ask questions. She respectfully led the way. Sir, ma'am, young ladies, please follow me. The maid navigated through a bunch of rooms and finally stopped at a tiny storage room in the corner. Sir, ma'am, young ladies, this is Master Zihao's room. As they looked on in confusion, the maid opened the door, and the tiny room was completely exposed. They stared in shock at the pitifully small room. There was even a sign on the door that said, storage room. Zihao, how could he live here? Lin Shui said in disbelief. Chu Dahai frowned deeply and asked the maid angrily, what's going on? Why is Zihao living in the storage room? The maid sighed inwardly and told the truth. Sir, Master Zihao moved into this storage room when he was 8 years old. He's been living in this storage room for 8 years. Honestly, this tiny storage room was even smaller than her own maid's quarters, and the things inside were pitifully scarce. As the real young master of a wealthy family, he lived in such a tiny room. Meanwhile, the adopted young master lived in his big room, spent the money that should have been his, and enjoyed the whole family's love. The maid felt sorry for him, but her words carried no weight, and the master and man were so stubborn, there was nothing she could do. Lin Shui and Chu Dahai looked at each other in shock. They remembered that when he was 8, they adopted Chu Fei. Chu Fei wanted Zihao's big room. At the time, they planned to set up another big room for him, but he kept making mistakes, so to teach him a lesson, they put it on hold. And that hold lasted for 8 solid years. A flash of guilt crossed Lin Shui and Chu Dahai's eyes. Zihao was their biological son, yet he lived in such a small storage room in the Chu family home for 8 years. They had truly failed him. They slowly walked into the room, and everything inside was completely different from what they imagined. The room was tiny. Besides a small bed, there was only a basic wardrobe, a small table, and a small stool. The blanket on the bed was really thin too. It's hard to imagine how he survived the winters. With 5 people standing in the room, it felt unbelievably cramped. The 3 sisters were genuinely shocked seeing this. Their rooms and Chu Fei's were incredibly spacious, with great lighting, and everything was custom designed by top designers. As children of the Chu family, they couldn't even fathom that I was living in such a cramped and depressing storage room. There was a bank card on the table. Lin Shui instantly recognized it as the birthday present she gave him when he was little. He didn't even take this bank card with him? He left the card behind. Is Chu Zihao planning to starve out there? Chu Shiyue said annoyedly. I mean, sure, you can link a card to your phone, but this card is under Mom's name. They all have one. Leaving it at home?